Money doesn't just come from one place. It drips, trickles, flows, and floods into our lives in different ways. Welcome to Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood, a podcast that explores the power of multiple income streams. We've got merch. That's right. Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood t-shirts are officially here, and they're as comfy as they are conversation starting. Grab yours at the link in our show notes. Hey, Tony, how are you today?
Great. How are you, Melissa?
I'm doing pretty good. It's
You know,
very
you're
gloomy out.
It's gloomy out. Oh my gosh. Yesterday was not a great day to be a track coach. I was getting soaked. I actually bought an umbrella since yesterday's practice. One of the coaches had one that he had bought as a fundraiser at the school. So I emailed the mom that had been selling them, and I'm picking mine up before practice today.
I feel like, to tell everyone for context, no one in the Pacific Northwest uses umbrellas. It's very rare. So in order for you to use an umbrella, it's pretty torrential then.
And I don't even actually know if I'll use it today, because today I think I'm going on a run with the kids. But yesterday it was a track workout, and so I was literally just standing there getting soaked.
Oh, that's not fun. Yeah, we had a little bout of nicer weather, and then it just took a dip. So we'll see how it goes.
And you're in deadline mode, it seems like.
I am in deadline mode. It's like one after another after another, which I'm grateful for the work. So no complaints here, but it's definitely been there. It has been a lot. It's been a whirlwind lately.
Cool. Well, we've been doing this for a year. Is that hard to believe?
It is hard to believe when you said that. Now, I knew that we just crossed our 50 episodes marker. So I think this one will be like 53 or 54. But I didn't realize that we had been doing this for a year. That's pretty wild.
I know time flies when you're having fun, I guess. It's really hard for me to believe. And so I guess that's what we're going to talk about today, that, the year that was, and how do we get here, and who do we talk to, and what do we learn, and all those things.
We learned a lot of good stuff. I mean, I think for me, the number one thing is a big intention of doing this is to have conversations about money and have them and normalize them and have them more often. And I think that's been a really wonderful thing about this podcast, because not only do we get to have those conversations here and with our guests, I hear constantly from our listeners that it has spurred conversations for them, whether it's with family or their spouse, friends, at work, wherever it may be. But that, I would say, is probably the top thing that I've heard from our listeners, is it's giving them a platform where they can say, oh, I just listened to this episode of Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood, and that made me think that I should bring this up. And so it gives them maybe an excuse is the right word to say it, to broach that topic with someone.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we got into this, it has definitely evolved. I don't know exactly what I thought the vision was, but it's almost like it's become a bit of a cheat code for, initiating, I guess, probably a better word, initiating those conversations around money, learning from other entrepreneurs, learning from other experts. That's just feel like each week there's these nuggets that are getting pulled out, and some of the stuff that our guests have shared, we have them on to talk about one thing. I keep thinking back to the She Births Bravely episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is my role in this conversation? I mean, I have a kid, but I didn't really know. And the financial insights that came out of that episode, that was one of the early ones too, was just so enlightening. I thought it was just awesome. And so we just never know where these conversations are going to go. And that's probably been my favorite part, is yes, we have a topic. Yes, there's a business. Yes, there's an article, whatever spurred the initial conversation. But to me, it's where the conversations ends up going has been the most exciting things, the pieces that I didn't expect.
I agree. It's also very fascinating to see which episodes are the favorites among our listeners as far as downloads. And we were just chatting about this the other day that the number one episode, and it has been number one for quite some time, is the one about moving to Portugal, which is very interesting, but also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Brian's story is unique and
Mhm.
diversified in how he arrived in Portugal. And but yeah, it just shows me that people are curious. They have adventurous spirit. Well,
Mhm.
not everybody. I mean, I have not moved to Portugal. I'm still living where I live, but living vicariously through someone else that's doing that or getting those pieces of inspiration is really cool.
Mhm. I think a lot of people are thinking about moving lately, and maybe not even moving out of the US, but just moving in general, and where they can stretch their dollars more, looking at cost of living, particularly in the economy that we're in. So it makes a lot of sense that that would come up as well. Maybe we just need to jet right out of the US into another country, but I'm glad that people have enjoyed that one. And another one that has consistently ranked in the top among our downloads is with Dusty Arab, where she talked about her backyard nursery and how she grew a whole business off of that. And that has been very cool because I also think we are seeing that movement of if you are going to create a drip, trickle, flow, or flood, how can you do that in a community sense? Like, what is a way to do that where it's values driven and it gives back to the community? So there's obviously a huge interest in that.
I love the dichotomy of those two episodes, right? One person is using their drip, trickle, flow floods to go to Portugal. The other person is literally using it to just go into their own backyard. And it's almost the two opposite ends of the spectrum. And it all works together. And it's kind of funny. Those are the top two listened to episodes, right? And so I think you can draw on both of those, right? And maybe you go, oh man, moving to Portugal would be really cool. And then they say, well, maybe my adventure is doing something in the backyard and going to a farmer's market. And that's
Yeah.
totally fine too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. The dichotomy between them. That's very, very, very interesting. And then we also have lots of people have been very interested in our episodes on starving artist syndrome, and particularly folks that come on and talk about those fields. So, your cousin Nick and also Jesse Rosen. So those always fall in our top 10 episodes. And I think that's also very interesting because as somebody who works in that industry, there are lots of things moving and changing. And there's a lot less work than there used to be in the more traditional sense. So in film and TV, there are a lot of people out of work, and that just is what it is right now. However, there are all these kind of new and interesting ways that people are making money. Your cousin is a great example of that when he talked about, like, no, it's not just about making films, but he has ways that he's doing storytelling with brands, and other ways that you can flex that muscle. So I think that is really interesting because I love having those conversations on this podcast about that. And then going and having conversations outside of the podcast with people in the industry beyond, Jesse or somebody who has a similar mindset that we do. And, it just hasn't gotten there yet. No one wants to diversify their income.
I
So
I am I am getting more people that I'm talking to that are open to the idea of diversifying their income.
good.
And I hope that and I think maybe we need to have some more specific discussions around that and maybe how we do it. And, I think there is some fear or not even fear, but this feeling of being overwhelmed with the idea. And we've talked about that a little bit of how do you manage that. But yeah, I think we should probably have an episode or maybe a couple episodes talking about just how can you integrate in more income streams and have it uh, not be overwhelming and how it can work into what's already going on in your life and how it can grow as your financial world evolves. Two things about Nick and Jesse's episode, and I didn't look this up. This is just in my brain from things that they said that really stuck with me. Jessie, she made the comment of know your worth, which I thought was a really, really, of the whole conversation, that's what stuck with me the most. And she was specifically talking about creatives and that sort of thing of knowing your worth. But then my favorite quote from Nick was that all work has dignity. And when you almost put those two quotes together, it really is a powerful way to go out into the world.
Mhm. Ooh, I'm so glad that you brought up those quotes because that links so perfectly to something that I've uncovered as maybe the bigger problem as to why folks are not adopting this yet in that space. So this is very specific, I would say, to people who write film or television, or sometimes people who write books in the traditional sense, meaning that they want to get a traditional deal through a publisher versus publish on their own. And one thing that I hear come up all the time in those spaces is they're averse to the diverse income streams because they want to only be known as a writer. So I only want to be known as a screenwriter, or I only want to be known as a best-selling author who got a book deal, and they don't want any other identity. And I think Jessie talked a bit about identity in her episode as well. Like for her, it was shedding identity. Like that was who she used to be. And then she decided that didn't serve her to be that. So now she has a much wider lens of what she identifies as. But I still see that as a very interesting place that people are getting a bit stuck around diversifying, and I don't know how to fix that problem.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just making some business cards. It's funny how many people, especially when I walk in with a to a bookstore or something, they say, "Do you have a business card?" But just in general, and people ask me what I do, and I have a really hard time fully describe. I mean, it turns into a really in-depth conversation if I really get into it. And so I was like, I had like 3 words like writer, coach, and even I don't even know what the 3rd thing, I just kept having these different 3 words that I'd have on there or something. Maybe it was uh, entrepreneur and I kept changing the words. I had author and writer and finally Lindsay was just like, "Well, do you need any words on there at all? Can't it just have your name and your contact information?" I said, "Yep, print." And that's what I ended with. And instead of having my identity tied into this one thing, and that's fine if you do want it tied to that, you can be proud of that. But
Mm.
for me, I'm like, I'm gonna have it on there. They can go to my social media or my website and they'll see all the things I'm currently doing.
Mhm.
And or they'll know me as whatever we discussed in that one setting. And it was kind of funny to be making business cards because it seems so outdated, but I've been surprised at how many people ask for that,
Hmm.
as opposed to saying, "Oh, I'll just follow you on Instagram or whatever." Sometimes it is
Mhm.
easier to just have that tangible thing,
I
to
could
get.
see that.
So,
I
I
mean,
like that identity piece and, um, being willing to diversify how you see yourself, I think is a lot of what Jesse was getting at.
yeah, maybe the business card piece is in alignment with Dusty's business as well, because you know how everything she was doing everything online. I think she still does, but then has this very community-based business that grew quite literally from her backyard, and that is very much a business card business, right? So it is interesting. I do see a big shift there. I think people do want more personalization nowadays, more in-person connection, handshaking, because everything has been online for so long and still is. So now it feels like a novelty to go in. And I know you do that a lot, Tony. You'll walk into like random stores, just go up and meet people And I think that's cool because that doesn't happen a lot now.
Yeah, yeah, my ability to ignore social norms are pretty strong. So, I think Ronnie was, kind of falls
Mhm.
into this vein too, right? Where,
Yeah.
uh, she moved into the jewelry and she has her Zumba classes and, like, meshes the digital and the physical world, very well. And, yeah, just a lot of these guests, just a lot of wisdom, a lot of creativeness, and it's been really, really enjoyable for me to learn from these people. I have learned way more from us doing this podcast than what I thought. And I don't know if my original vision of that we're just talking about, more nuts and bolts finances. I don't think the podcast would have made it a year with just
Mhm.
that. I think having these guests on and learning from them, and then that spurs us to look into different things, or maybe they direct us to an article or a book or, whatever the thing is. Or we also always have Gary, that's Melissa's husband, always wanting Melissa and I to be more informed and sending us videos and book links and articles and all the things. So we do have a couple different funnels for getting new topics.
He always has good he's always got ideas. That's my husband. He's definitely an idea guy. When we both recently were away, Gary and I were away, and then you were I don't know, were you with Lindsay?
Yeah,
And you guys were
yeah,
away at the same time? Okay.
yeah.
So we were both away, obviously on separate trips. And Gary was like, "I know when when we're both on our vacations, you guys should do a podcast episode." And I'm like, no, I think we'll probably be just kinda swept up with our families and things that we had going on, but we were gonna try to make it work, but I think it was good to have that time where we got to be independent,
Yeah,
not thinking about
we were actually only a couple hours away from each. Probably if Gary had his druthers, we would have met up and done it.
I think so, yes, yes, so he'll always he does have good ideas though as well, but he'll always come up with just all sorts of things that we can talk about or do, so we appreciate it. We like the ideas.
Yeah. So what else have what are your takeaways? What are you looking forward to in the future with this podcast?
Hmm. I'm
Not to put
looking
you on the
for
spot, but to put you on the spot.
yeah, that's okay. I'm definitely looking forward to more conversations with guests, particularly in some of these spaces that I think are popular for our audiences, of course. They like learning about local businesses, they like learning about entertainment business, and they like learning about different ways of viewing money, investments, and I think also worth. Something that comes up a lot and is always in our top episodes is like the rent versus buy conversation. And I saw maybe it was an article or video, I don't recall recently, and it was talking about like how going out and buying like your dream home used to be, I guess, the American dream. And maybe still is for some people. I think that is very dependent, but then for some of us, that isn't what we're looking for. And maybe we do invest in real estate and maybe not. But there are reasons for it that tie specifically to an investment versus tying specifically to like, this is my home and I'm going to fill it with my family and all the beautiful things I love. And not everyone has that same vision or view. So I think it would be cool to have more discussions around not even necessarily that specifically, but just different ways in which people build their lives and just so that people can see different pictures. I had a friend say that to me recently. I was doing something and she's like, "You made it okay for me to do that." And and what she really meant was, prior to that, people in her life felt doing XYZ was like maybe didn't look so great or like wasn't rich enough or whatever that meant. and I'm just like, I'm gonna clip my coupons or whatever I'm gonna do that feels good to me, or shop at a discount store, or and then in some cases I don't shop at a discount store. So I think we all have to choose what we want to invest in and what we don't. And that will look like a radically different picture for everyone. So I'm excited to have more conversations with different people from all walks of life so that we can see, we can't be what we can't see, right? So that way we can see more examples and get inspired.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the idea of kind of the designing your life approach to this, and that's really how, drip trickle flow flood came to be for me is I was trying to create flexibility and freedom. Uh, you know, driving around in Ferraris isn't necessarily that's not what I am after. I like driving around in my old V-dub van.
Yep.
And I think that that's okay. That stereotypical, this is what life has to look like. It's okay if that's not what you want or if it is what you want.
Mhm.
And most of the conversations that I have with people, well, it's funny. One, people come up to me and they go, I like to write. And then and the conversation goes that way. And then the other thing I talk to people about is that flexibility and freedom. And that's really what I'm hearing people are more after than any like than stuff. They want the flexibility and freedom to go to their kids' sporting events and go on vacations and do those sorts of things. And not that people don't want a nice house and maybe even owning their own house. Some people want land so they can have a farm, or they want to live in an apartment and a high rise in a city, for whatever lifestyle they they want. I will say that when the buying of the real estate is tied to this vision or this dream, and it's an emotional decision, there's a solid chance it's not a financial decision, right? And it often it shouldn't be even looked at or thought of that way, right? Like this is an emotional decision, just like choosing to go on a vacation or choosing to take a job that pays less so that you're doing what you want to do or have more flexibility or whatever it is. And so I think all of those things can coexist. There's no one way that we need to live. And I think having those conversations with friends and family just just propels it forward and making it okay and making it more comfortable. And it's okay if two friends don't have the same vision, right? Maybe somebody
Right.
wants the white picket fence lifestyle and the other person wants to be jet setting around the world. That's okay. They can get
Yeah.
together, right? Like the person with the white picket fence, maybe you need to crash on their couch occasionally, and maybe they want to come meet you in Portugal or wherever you end up. And I think that those two different lifestyles can can coexist, right? It takes all types.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what
So
are
we
you
need
most
to
excited for?
yeah, so we need to find people that um I really enjoy having entrepreneurs on and having the financial experts and that sort of thing. But maybe we do need to have some people that are at different stages of their journey that want to come on and talk about that.
Yes, we're open. Reach out, get in touch. Anybody that wants to come on and chat with us, we love chatting with people.
Yeah, and don't be bashful about it. If you're at the start of your financial journey or you feel like you're in transition or maybe don't have something. Even if you think that it's not that your story maybe wouldn't be interesting, that's probably not true. And here's the great thing, like, if you come on and I guess if you really have nothing to say, it's not live, we don't have to post it, but we've never not,
Yeah,
so I
we've never.
I think that people will come on and, I think the conversation will be far more interesting and, it's kinda like in school, right? They said there's no dumb question.
Mhm.
Kinda like these conversations that you're having in your mind, if we come on and have them on the podcast, other people probably have that kind of stuff on their mind too.
Yeah. Now, what are you most excited for? I'm going to flip the question, put you on the spot.
Um, I'm excited about the conversations that I'm getting to have with people that are listening to the podcast. I'm being surprised by the people that are reaching out, the things that are, I was on the Skagit Storytellers podcast, and that was kind of a weird thing where she saw my book and then listened to the podcast and then reached out to be, and like just these different conversations. And I'm bumping into people in my life that are listening to the podcast, and I think it's breaking down a little bit of that stigma around talking about money. And I think there is a comfort of that people are having of talking about it, and also just all the different things. I think people are learning more a little bit
Mm.
about what I do, what you do, and just well, as diversified as we are is not normal. It's totally abnormal, and it's not for everybody. And I'm not trying to push that on anybody, but people do come up and talk to me about the different facets that I mentioned on the podcast. So that's been really fun for me. I like the podcast because I'm able to, or we're able to reach a large audience. I like writing the articles, and a lot of people get to read it, and hopefully my book people get to read it. But I love talking to people. I love, you know, just having those conversations, and it's hard to do. You can't do that with everybody. You don't see everybody, but if I had my druthers, we'd just be in the backyard playing games, talking about all the different things. And so, I like that it is leading to more conversations, and I'm just excited to see who else we get on the podcast. And every time we have someone on, I'm like, oh, we'll never find another person to be on this podcast, and we're not going to have another topic to talk about. And then next thing you know, it's another 10 episodes later. And
Mhm.
I just interviewed somebody for an article, and I go, man, you'd be great on the podcast. And, so it's really fun that's what I'm excited about is I guess a part of it is kind of the unknown is what I'm excited for is
Yeah,
I don't really know where it's going to go and who we're going to talk to next.
that's true. I think there's a lot of fun in that, not having it all figured out. I think that's a good lesson as we close out this episode too for our audiences. We didn't start this podcast with a huge intention of, it's going to be this, it's going to reach this, it's going to achieve this. We mainly started it because we're writing a book about this topic, and it was a way to start to test subjects and talk to people and get insights and learn and grow, because writing a book without all of that is not as easy. So it's still not easy to write a book, but um, it will be a better book when you have those insights incorporated. So that was really the only intention we went into this with. And if you listen back to like episode 30-ish, something like that, when Tony realizes he didn't have a mic the whole time and that he did have the mic, um, we made it 30 episodes without Tony even having, like, a microphone, even though he had it under his desk the whole time, but it wasn't plugged in. So, I think that is, like, the perfect example of, if you wanna do something, just do it. You don't have to have all of the perfect equipment or have it all figured out. We're now a year in, which, like I said, I didn't even realize. Duh. But, but we're a year in, and, I feel like we're just getting started. Like, it feels still so new and fresh, and like the world is our oyster, and we'll just kind of see what comes out of this. And I think it will take some surprising twists and turns.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited about where we're at and where we're going. And I'm excited about the book. When I started writing that book, had I continued down that solo mission and published that book, it would have been so boring. And that's what initially why I reached out to Melissa, because I'm like, who doesn't write boring? Melissa. And in the book, it keeps morphing, and the book isn't morphing because you and I had some epiphany. It's because the podcast is directing that metamorphosis. And I'm excited. I'm really excited for the book, and getting that out there. I think will reach another audience and give people a tangible, concise piece of piece of content there to help bring all of these ramblings together.
So you can listen to us ramble and read the book.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening and thank you for joining us, whether you're new or whether you've been here for all 50 plus episodes. We appreciate you. And of course, we always appreciate if you can rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform because that helps us to reach more folks who are interested in learning about the drip, trickle, flow, flood lifestyle. And with that said, we'll see you on next time on Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood. Thanks, everybody.